The capital wasteland is a big place, filled with things that are easy to miss. Starting with the 5 Axles rest stop, this is one of those rare places that can basically destroy itself. Shooting the trucks will usually set off a chain reaction that tears through the entire camp, often taking most of the raiders with it. But that's not the best thing about this location. What is can be found inside one of the trucks. Tucked away in a container full of tires is a holodisk labeled partial CB radio backup.
Come again. Any truckers on this wave?
What you actually get in-game is only part of a larger recording, a broken exchange between 2 truckers. One person with a Boston accent, and the other was supposed to have a southern drawl. Only the first section made it into the final version of the game, while the rest can only be found in the game's files.
Come again. Any truckers on this wave?
I'll read you, buddy. Y'all see those clouds? Over.
10-4, it's the commies. Let's circle the wagons. Meet us at the state line on Route 7.
You got a deal. I'll pass the word along on my way. Over and out.
For some reason, the audio is labeled Do Not Use Trucker Voice Type NPC, suggesting the recording wasn't entirely finished before it was supposed to be used in the game, but it does sound complete. On top of that, the credits behind it are just as strange. The cut southern voice was handled by audio director Mark Lambert, while the Boston accented driver was voiced by lead designer Emil Pagliarulo, meaning he actually appeared in Fallout 3 and we didn't even know about it. As for the rest of the truckers, they seem to have met up successfully, using their trucks to create a circle, although the truckers are now long gone, but their fortifications are still standing, at least until we came along and blew them up. 5 Axles isn't the only seemingly insignificant location, hiding far more than first meets the eye. East of Tenpenny Tower, you'll find a place inhabited by a group of raiders and Yaoguai, each occupying their own section of the cavern. For the most part, it's just another random location, making the world feel more alive, but there's something hidden inside this cave system that can't be found anywhere else in the entire game. There are 2 entrances you can use to get inside, but the entrance closest to the Overlook Drive-In brings you directly to the body I want to show you. The corpse is missing its head, an arm, and a leg. Inside the hollowed-out chest are what appear to be the missing limbs, along with a few extra pieces, including a second skull. At first glance, it looks like something much darker than it actually is, but I think this is simply the raiders decorating the entrance while also lighting the way forward. Bit of a shame this can't be taken by the player or bought while furnishing the player home, because it looks really cool. Either way, it's entirely unique, and there's a good chance you've walked straight past it. That is, if you've ever been to this location in the first place. While the glowing skull doesn't really do anything other than look really cool, Bethesda did a pretty good job telling a simple story found near the Corvega factory. Just south of said factory, there's a jackknife truck beneath a broken part of the monorail system. Inside the overturned trailer is a few items you'll no doubt take. There's a lovely message painted on the wall, and a locked footlocker at the very back. There's a chance you don't have the skills to pick the lock, which is very hard, but you don't have to, and this is one of my favourite examples of environmental storytelling. Because if we pause and take a moment, we can see that the truck driver wasn't wearing his seatbelt, and was thrown from the cab, smashing through the windshield and colliding with a nice boulder. The driver clearly perished from his injuries, but there's something else nearby, an overturned box that belongs to the driver, and we can confirm this by flipping it over and finding an empty bottle of whiskey, telling us the driver might have been driving under the influence, and this scene could be the result of that drinking. In any case, along with the bottle there's also the driver's key, which can be used to unlock the footlocker and collect a Chinese Army Special Ops training manual, implying the driver, or perhaps someone the driver was working with, was a pre-war Chinese spy. West of Broadcast Tower KB5 is what's known as the Exploding Scientist Truck. As you approach it, there's an explosion, usually accompanied by a scientist being cartoonishly flung from the trailer. They do not survive the blast. Inside the trailer is a mini-nuke, medical supplies, some junk parts, and a laser rifle. Not sure what the scientist was getting up to, reverse engineering a mini-nuke to make more, experimenting with their own IEDs, or maybe they stumbled onto the place and ran into some kind of trap. Either way, if the scientist had gone a little further north down the road, they would have found a copy of Duck and Cover, something that might have helped them, all things considered. Southeast of Fort Bannister is a lovely place called Shaal House. The entrances to the house are rigged with frag mines. There's one raider keeping watch on the rock behind the house, and several more raiders inside. There's also a guard dog herding the nearby Brahmin, suggesting the raiders have taken up farming, maybe trying to make their own kind of jet. There's not much loot here, a skill mag upstairs, stashed in the chimney, but the thing I want to talk about isn't the location, but the name of the location. A charnel house is a building used to store human skeletal remains. They were common in medieval Europe, where old graves were cleared to make room for new burials, and the bones were respectfully stored instead of being discarded. One of the best preserved examples in the UK can still be found beneath St. Leonard's Church, where thousands of skulls and bones remain on display. This charnel house has no neatly stacked collection of bones though, with bodies hanging from the rafters and scattered around the property. Still, the unusual name certainly feels appropriate for this location, and I felt like sharing. But as sad as this scene is, there's always something much sadder. Northeast of that broadcast tower I mentioned earlier is a ruined house guarded by raiders. There's always raiders. There's a mini-nuke in the bathtub and a tumblers today on a nearby shelf, but this house is merely a stop on the road to where I really want to go. Northeast from this ruined house is a rusty car and a handcart, and it's there you can find a dead wastelander. Inside their pockets is a note titled Almost Home. It reads, "It seems like I've been out here scavving forever. I'm ready to head home soon though. I've got just enough to keep Paulina, Cress and me going for another week." These other two characters, Paulina and Cress, are mentioned only, and technically cannot be found in the game, but I have a sneaking suspicion that the Wastelander and the people mentioned were actually living in the ruined house before it was taken over by raiders, and now all that's left of them can be found in the freezer. At least the Wastelander didn't make it home in time to see what happened to his friends. Next is a different kind of house that doesn't involve murder. The location is just south of Chased Acre Dairy Farm. In the wasteland, every house needs a functioning toilet, and without running water, an outhouse is the next best thing. I'm assuming the survivors from the farm built the outhouse after the war, or the raiders did it after moving in, using a set of ruined cars to prevent intrusion from the roaming Yaoguai. Beyond the fact that the defenses didn't work, the outhouse is also constructed on top of an irradiated pool of water, hence the name, the irradiated outhouse. Good intentions, poor execution, or in other words, it was a shit idea. What isn't a shitty idea is giving the player multiple ways to discover a single location. You can learn the location of Oasis, a fabled place with living trees, by either stumbling onto the Oasis raiders or the Oasis merchants, but there's a third way that doesn't leave discovery up to chance or involve random encounters. At the Dickerson Tabernacle Chapel, say that 3 times, is a drifter living in the upper level. On the ground floor there's a lectern, some supplies, and a few beds, although the drifter isn't in the mood for sharing with strangers. To reinforce the drifter's temperament, there is the remains of some unknown person who once used an overturned pew for cover. There's also 2 ammunition boxes and a combat shotgun next to him, almost as if he was guarding the place before the drifter came along and took it from him, and since the drifter uses a sniper rifle, the shotgunner didn't stand a chance. Luckily, our odds are multitudes better, and killing the drifter isn't a problem since he wears an eye patch over the eye he's trying to aim with. After taking him out, you can nab his unique rifle and the Oasis Coordinates holotape, which you can then use to discover the mysterious and highly sought after Oasis. Lastly, northeast of Megaton is the Chrysalis Building. Once the headquarters of Chrysler Motors, it's now just another ruined office block infested with mutants. Most of it is what you'd expect: collapsed floors and derelict offices, the usual pre-war corporate graveyard. But there's one room that stands out. Upstairs in the reception area bathroom are 2 stalls. Inside each one is a garden gnome holding a sign. One reads, "We're dying, assholes," and the other says, "Help us." It's not hard to notice what they're referencing. Outside Vault 101, you can find skeletons slumped against the entrance, holding signs the survivors held up to the cameras, hoping to get inside. We don't know who decided to recreate the scene in miniature, but if I had to guess, and you know how much I enjoy guessing, I would say it's the mutants living in the ruins. My reason for thinking this is because the mutants have likely visited Vault 101 in their search for more FEV. Obviously they couldn't get inside, and I guess that fact weighed heavily on their minds, so they recreated the grisly scene in the entrance as a way of coping with their failings, or reminding them that they can always go back there and try again. The location is really close to Vault 101, just a simple stroll down the road, past the Super Duper Marts and across the bridge, and mutants do have a history of decorating their settlements with gore and steel and all manner of things, so it is plausible. Unless you think these mutants are too dumb to do such a thing, in which case it could have been a survivor who made it to Vault 101 as the bombs were dropping, but like the others in the entrance, they were denied entry, and this person, whoever they were, made it to the factory, recreated the scene as they grappled with the reality of living in the post-war world and not some cushy vault. Be sure to show your support by liking the video and subscribing if you haven't already for more Fallout content. If there's anything you'd like to see in a later video, leave a comment and I'll see what I can do. With that said, thank you, as always, for watching, and I'll see you in the next adventure.